Welcome to Scaring YouTube channel. Today's chilling tale. A story of curiosity gone terribly wrong. We've all heard whispers of the dark web, that hidden side of the internet where anonymity allows the most unthinkable activities to thrive. But what happens when someone digs too deep? When curiosity crosses a line and leads to an encounter that forever changes their life? What you're about to hear is a true story. An account so disturbing it will make you question just how safe we really are behind our screens. This is not for the faint of heart, and listener discretion is advised. Before going into the story, please subscribe to my channel. I get motivated to make scaring and horror stories. The descent begins. Lucas was an ordinary guy, early 30s, tech-savvy, a little too adventurous for his own good. He wasn't a hacker, but he was skilled enough with computers to make him confident, sometimes too confident. His interest in the dark web started as casual curiosity, but over time, that curiosity grew into an obsession. One late night, as he browsed through a tech forum, he stumbled upon a discussion about the dark web that caught his attention. There were warnings about its dangers, stories of illegal activities, and some very dark corners that most people should never see. But there was also an air of intrigue. The forum users described it as a place of limitless possibilities, where you could find anything for the right price. Drugs, guns, fake IDs, you name it. But it wasn't the illegal marketplace that piqued Lucas's interest. It was the constant mention of something more sinister. Hidden communities, encrypted conversations, and forums that discuss things far worse than black market goods. His curiosity got the best of him. The more he read, the more he was drawn into the idea of exploring these hidden depths. After all, he thought, how bad could it really be? Equipped with his Tor browser and a VPN for extra protection, Lucas took his first steps into the unknown. The initial experience wasn't as dark as he expected. Sure, there were marketplaces selling drugs and counterfeit goods, but it didn't feel too different from the sketchy parts of the regular web. He spent hours scrolling through various forums, lurking in chat rooms, and getting the hang of navigating this strange new digital world. But it was on his third night of exploration that things took a darker turn. After browsing through several innocuous-looking sites, Lucas came across something different, a link that led to a site called Obsidian Dreams. The name was cryptic, and there was no description, but he clicked on it. Immediately, a warning popped up. Members only. Proceed with caution. Lucas smirked. It was exactly the kind of challenge he was looking for. But it wasn't as simple as signing up with an email. No. Obsidian Dreams required you to answer a series of riddles. These weren't ordinary puzzles, though. They were designed to mess with your mind. Questions that touched on morality, suffering, and fear. It took Lucas hours to finally crack the code. Once he did, the site granted him access, but what he found that would haunt him forever. Obsidian Dreams. The Obsidian Dreams forum was unlike anything he had ever seen. Its members shared disturbing content, photos, stories, and videos that couldn't be found anywhere else. But it wasn't just the illegal nature of the content that was disturbing. It was the atmosphere. These people didn't just share images or videos. They discussed them with a level of detachment that made Lucas feel sick. There was no shock, no horror, just cold fascination with human suffering. One of the threads that immediately caught Lucas's eye was titled, The Red Room Invitation. He had heard of red rooms before, alleged live streams where people were tortured and murdered for the viewing pleasure of those willing to pay. Most dismissed them as urban legends, but this thread was different. It wasn't speculative. It was filled with comments from users who claimed to have watched these live events. Lucas felt a strange mix of horror and fascination. Could something like that really exist? He kept scrolling through the thread, reading the cryptic comments. Some spoke in code. Others directly referenced past shows. The more he read, the more his curiosity deepened. Despite the pit forming in his stomach, he couldn't stop himself. He had to know more. One night, while lurking in the thread, Lucas received a direct message from a user named Master of Shadows. The message was simple. You've been watching. Are you ready to see for yourself? His heart raced. For a moment, he considered closing the browser, deleting everything and walking away. But the message felt like a challenge, and Lucas had never been one to back down from those. The invitation, he replied, and within moments, Master of Shadows responded with an encrypted link. The message was clear: this is not for the weak. Do not click unless you are truly ready. Lucas hesitated, but eventually clicked the link. His screen flickered, going black for several seconds. Then, a live stream appeared. The camera showed a dimly lit room, its walls lined with plastic sheets. In the center of the room, a single metal chair stood bolted to the floor. A man was tied to it, gagged and blindfolded. He was shaking, his chest rising and falling in rapid breaths. His terror was palpable. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. This couldn't be real. It had to be staged. But the fear in the man's movements told a different story. A figure in a black mask entered the frame, walking slowly, deliberately. The silence was suffocating. After what felt like an eternity, the figure approached the camera, leaning in close. Through a distorted voice, they spoke. "Welcome, Lucas. We've been expecting you." Lucas's blood ran cold. His stomach dropped. How did they know his name? His real name? He had never used his real identity anywhere, let alone on the dark web. He stared at the screen, his mind racing. He thought about closing the browser, shutting everything down, but before he could move, the horror on screen escalated. The masked figure turned back to the man in the chair, pulling out a blade. Lucas couldn't tear his eyes away. What followed was an act of violence so horrific, so brutal, that it shook Lucas to his core. He slammed his laptop shut, gasping for breath, his heart pounding in his chest. But it didn't end there. The aftermath. Over the next few days, Lucas tried to forget what he had seen. He deleted the Tor browser, cleared his computer of any traces of the dark web, and promised himself he'd never go back. But the damage had already been done. It started with strange emails, random strings of letters and numbers at first, but then they became more personal. Photos of his house, taken from outside, looking in. Someone was watching him. He tried to ignore it, hoping it was some elaborate prank, but the situation worsened. One night, Lucas found a USB stick left on his doorstep. His heart pounded as he plugged it into his laptop. What he found on that drive shattered any remaining sense of security. The files contained videos, footage of him, recorded through his own webcam. They had been watching him the whole time. Panic set in. He called the police, but they couldn't help. Without concrete evidence, there was little they could do. He moved to a new apartment, changed his name, even went off the grid for a while, but the paranoia never left. Lucas knew he could never escape. He was trapped in the consequences of his curiosity, forever haunted by the knowledge that somewhere, deep in the shadows, they were still watching. Thank you for joining me for this horrifying true story. The dark web is not a place to explore lightly. Lucas's story is a terrifying reminder that some things are better left alone. And once you've seen the darkness, it might never stop watching you. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, especially with those who might be tempted to explore the dark web themselves. Stay safe out there, and remember, some doors, once open, can never be closed.